Chairman, let's stay with the capital requirements as you and Chairman were talking about on the larger institutions, but frankly, throughout the entire banking system. Pre-financial crisis, capital levels were in the single digits. In the last decade, it seems capital is continually being raised. My question is, how much is too much, and when is enough enough? We are going down a path where something happens or something goes wrong, and the only default solution seems to be to raise the capital standards or the capital on the sidelines. And the formulas that I use are real simple formulas. The higher the capital standards, the lower the capital for the private sector, which means fewer loans and less capital for those who are actually creating jobs. And so when we have too much capital on the sidelines, then we have too little capital for actually creating and producing a vibrant economy. At some point, if you've raised it from single digits just a decade ago during the crisis, pre-crisis to now, frankly, rumors are as high as 20% for our GSIBs is a possible outcome. How much is too much?
I think that's exactly the right question. As you point out, there is a trade-off between making the banks safer, more secure, more resilient. You want them to be very strong, particularly the largest banks, so that they can continue to intermediate and lend money and things like that, continue to function during even stressful situations. But it's with bank capital, it's always going to be a trade-off between the availability and cost of credit and how much safety. And I think that's the question we're going to be addressing and answering as part of this process.
As you continue to work on fighting inflation, which I think is job one of another simple formula for those of us in the real world of business, we hear a lot of celebration around the jobs that are being created and the wage growth, but the way I look at it is wage increase minus inflation has led to less spending power. Do you disagree with that?
No, I think that's right.
Yeah. And so in the end, as we celebrate what seems to be a healthy economy, the truth of the matter is that the average person in our nation today struggles to make their ends meet because of the inflationary impact on their bottom line. And what that means for them is that there's a crisis for a single mother like the one that raised me, or seniors on fixed incomes. And we have yet to, as a nation, adjust for the 500 basis points increase and how we service our debt. Said differently, the more money we have to use for servicing our debt, the less money we have for meeting the needs of the American people. Therefore, printing and spending $4 trillion after COVID was over has led to the inflation that we're seeing, and that, as a result, led to the 10 rate increases. So how do you, as chairman of the Federal Reserve, talk to policymakers about the importance of being responsible from a monetary perspective? I know I've seen and heard your comments that that's not your lane, but certainly the actions that we take here impacts, frankly, significantly what you have had to do in order to slow down Biden's absolutely explosive inflation.
Let me start by saying that actually you were talking about real wages a moment ago.
Yes.
Real wages actually did go up at the lower end of the income spectrum, and now they are
Bottom
positive,
quintile.
but they're not as positive as we'd like to see them.
Yes.
So, but to your real question, I would just say this, that the U.S. federal budget is on an unsustainable path. It has been so for a long time. We need to deal with that sooner or later, and sooner is better than later. But that's what I can say, and that's what essentially all of my predecessors have said. We are not charged with supervising fiscal policy in any way. It's just, but as a high-level matter from the standpoint of the economy, that's what I can say.
Well, here's another analogy that works for me as a former football player, a running back. If my line isn't blocking and I keep getting my head hammered, I'm going to say something to the line. At some point, I think it's your responsibility to talk about the importance of fiscal responsibility. That to the side, my last thought and question for you is that SVB suffered because their bond portfolio ended up carrying water in a negative way. you have a $8 trillion balance sheet and beyond. Every report that I've read is that your bond portfolio, our bond portfolio, the Fed, is underwater as well. Can you talk to me about the losses that you're experiencing at the Fed from a
Sure.
bond
So
perspective?
remember that the way it works at the Fed is when we buy assets during QE, we pay for them with overnight interest rate reserves. And we've, for many, many years during the QE era, we've earned a spread, and we've been sending money to the Treasury way over $1 trillion since QE started. And so now that rates have gone back up to 5%, that process has reversed. And these are paper losses. They have absolutely no effect on our ability to conduct monetary policy or really on the economy. It's an accounting fact. If we retained capital, then that would be it would look completely different. But we don't. We give all of our profits to the Treasury.
So you were giving profits to the Treasury, now you're not. That has an actual effect. I mean,
Well,
if I was getting $10 and now I'm not, there's an effect.
Well, the Treasury then will have to borrow money that it doesn't get or raise taxes. It'll have to get the money to
Correct.
carry out the spending that Congress authorizes. Yeah. But that's not going to affect interest rates and things like that much.
To me, I have the holistic view of our economy where if, in fact, we have fewer dollars coming in, which requires us to raise taxes, that in the end has a real impact on American taxpayers. But thank you.
Thank you.